Hello, welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack, and this is your latest Manchester United news. And there's only one person and one topic we're going to be talking about tonight, and that's Erik ten Hag. A lot of reports from different outlets coming out today in relation to the future of the Manchester United manager. The majority of them seem to be saying that he is being backed by Ineos. Others saying that regardless, it's a week of peril for him, regardless of what results may come. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. We'll go through some of the reports, but most importantly, I want to get your opinions on it today. We've had 24 hours to digest that absolutely terrible performance against Spurs. So I want to know what you guys think. Jump into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know, should he stay? Should I stay or should I go? So yeah, let me know what you're thinking in the comment section below. Please smash a like on the video as well, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. I think we've had a really good day for some reason across the board on YouTube. We've had something like 350 new subscribers in the last 24 hours. So really, really good. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And yeah, like I said, get your comments in as always, and we'll go through them. But look, obviously, we're going to start with the reports coming out today. The first one was in relation to Erik ten Hag, and it was from the Manchester Evening News early this morning, saying that Ten Hag did arrive at Carrington at 7:30 this morning, and he's set to remain in charge for the Europa League trip to Porto on Thursday and the Premier League fixture at Aston Villa on Sunday. Those fixtures could be crucial to deciding Erik ten Hag's fate. So yeah, nothing has really changed. A lot of people were suggesting, and dare I say, hoping that we would have woke up this morning to news about Erik ten Hag being sacked. Now, look, my opinion and my thoughts on it. I think his time is up. I don't think there's any coming back from it. I reiterate my stance. I want Erik ten Hag to survive. I want him to succeed. I want him to thrive. I want us to improve. And yeah, sorry, I never actually changed the background. There we go. I want him to succeed. I want him to be a successful Manchester United manager. Do I see it happening? I just don't anymore, and I will fully admit that, I was a strong advocate for Erik ten Hag over, the last 6 months, because it has been tough over the last 6 months on him in relation to, external pressure. And I mentioned it in the Talking Points video today. Go and check it out after this if you haven't already done so. One of my points was, we've had all of the injuries last season. We've had them all. We've had more injuries than any team could ever imagine in one season. And that was the main reason why Erik ten Hag was getting a pass, because the performances were atrocious. Now, yesterday, that performance, there cannot be any excuses from it. It's the same performance that we've seen last year when we had a decimated squad and a decimated team. It's also a performance from a team that has been heavily invested in over the summer. So it's an improved team without any injuries, bar Luke Shaw, of course. But what difference would Luke Shaw really have made there, to be quite honest with you? Would he have been at the back post to stop the cross that Delot didn't get back in for? These are all minor details. Erik ten Hag has a full squad now. Well, not now, but going into the game last night, he did. And he's got basically all his own players as well. When we look at the team last night, I think it was 3, was it? So Delot, Bruno Fernandes, and Kobbie Mainoo. Oh no, if we're not including, yeah, I think it was only Bruno Fernandes and Delot, and sorry, Marcus Rashford, who are the only 3 players that Erik ten Hag hasn't either promoted from the youth or bought himself. So 8 out of the 11 last night on the field in the starting 11 were Erik ten Hag's players. This is his team. And them excuses that we had last season and the past maybe that a lot of Manchester United fans gave Erik ten Hag last year are gone. They're no longer there, because we've got a full squad and because it is his team. And I think rightly so, the criticism should fall because of that. Now, again, I'm not calling for anyone to be sacked, and I want to reiterate that, me saying I think his time is up doesn't mean I want him to be sacked. I want him to be successful. I want him to improve as every game and start winning games. And if we do go and win these games on Thursday night and on Sunday in the Europa League and the Premier League, two tough fixtures, if we do go and win them, I don't really think it's going to change anything from, I don't know about every other fan, but for me specifically now, that game against Spurs and to a lesser extent the game against FC20 midweek just showed us that these performances are not going away. And if we do go on a run and win 4 or 5 or 6 games in a row, I think subconsciously in the back of my mind, I'm going to continue to say now, when are the next Spurs game going to come along? When is the next, performance that we had against Crystal Palace last year going to come along? When's the next Liverpool 7-0 defeat going to come along? It continues to happen now that he's got a full squad, and that's the big concern. Different reports coming out, guys. This one says some around Erik ten Hag think that enough work has been done around the Dutchman to warrant a longer stay at Manchester United. We'll get into that in a moment. Let me get down through some of your comments while they're fresh. Let me see. Will he survive the week, says Finn. D says, as of this video going live, we are 13th in the league, 4 points shy of the relegation zone and behind Brentford, who are in 12th. Yeah, it's not nice reading. He also says one of the lads posted something earlier. In the last 15 Premier League games, we have taken less points than Everton. Yeah, which is really not good. Ben says, I think it's time up, unfortunately. I think it's not all his fault. Some players are nowhere near putting 100% in, but the easier option is to change the manager and get a fresh look in. Well, it's funny that we're now saying that, considering, what we've seen over the last few years and when we've got manager changes and when, even at the end of last season, when a lot of pressure was coming on Erik ten Hag and we were going through a couple of really bad spells last season, the majority of the Manchester United fan base were, aiming their blame towards the players, And again, I go back and reiterate, I think the reason why the flip for that now is because this is now his team. It's his team, and there's no getting away from it. There really isn't. And I think some of the decisions being made, we've spoken in depth a lot, and Oshin, who's a regular contributor to the channel, has been saying it for a long time, since nearly day one, that he's been very confused around some of the decisions that Ten Hag makes in game, substitutions, so on and so forth. And we have talked an awful lot about it. The game against FC20, for example, where he takes off players who are, more creative, that you want to leave on the pitch to get, creating and maybe to go and try and get us a goal. Other decisions where, for example, we might need legs on the pitch, but, he brings on Christian Eriksen maybe, for example. And, these are all just small examples, but they are all contributing to the pressure that's coming on him, and it's all, there's a big sense of foreboding, let me put it that way, around Erik ten Hag at the moment. Laser says, evening, Jack. I do actually agree with what you said there. And as I've been saying for weeks now, the performance is nothing different to last season. Maybe a little tweak, but nothing new. Yeah, and we spoke an awful lot about it. I mean, up until yesterday's game, or maybe the FC20 game, performances were much improved on last season. They were, and I said that quite resolutely, that I thought, the performances were much improved on last season. We looked a lot sharper. We created a lot more. We looked defensively solid. Even if you take the Liverpool game out, for example, which was 3-0, all individual errors. But I did think the performances were much improved. Now, this week has just completely flipped that on its head, and the performances of last season are rearing their ugly head again, and that's the big concern. Finn says, hate sacking managers. It's back to square one again every time. I still think this team needs a bedding in, period. Well, it's a good point that you make there, Finn, and it is a point that I do want to bring. Erik ten Hag's third season. Yes, it is Erik ten Hag's third season, but you can look at it in a positive way. And you know me, I always try and find a positive out of something, if at all possible. And the positive that I would get from this is that it's not Erik ten Hag's third season in a way. It's his first season under the new ownership, under the new structure, under everything that's, you know, leveled above him. You know, your Dan Ashworth, your Baradas, your Wilcoxes, so on and so forth. So there is a way of saying, and again, look, this is not me being blindly positive for no reason, but taking the point that Finn says there in terms of betting in, new players there, you know, Mazraoui started really well. Delic started really well. Ugarte, you know, bad game to make a Premier League debut and didn't really help himself that much. Xerxes only betting in as well. 4 players we're talking about there. You know, that it's nearly half of your outfield, you know, playing staff that do need betting in and do need to get to know each other and do need to build foundations and relationships with each other. So I can understand it in that point as well. I absolutely can, 100%. Kiefer says, I really think Rashford needs moving from the team. He drains the life out of me watching him. To be honest with you, I thought he was probably one of our livelier players yesterday, if I'm being honest. I don't think anyone was good. And I think Rashford has had a decent start to the season. I wouldn't be in any hurry to, and look, we can't get rid of him anyway, and I don't think he will leave, but there's no point in talking about, you know, you can criticize individual performances, but I think, you know, we're not in a transfer window. There's no point in saying Rashford needs to go. Just let's just get behind him, I think, more than anything. I do take your point, Kiefer, absolutely. It's just, you know, we can't do anything about it at the moment. Ben says, I respect Ten Hag's ruthlessness for players, but his tactics are useless. Laser says, all I can say now is Ten Hag outers for the past year have won this battle. Yeah, and that side, you know, looking at the smug head on him over the last 24 hours really annoys me, because he's already making moves about trying to call out the board for not sacking him. You know, I think he's the most negative fan channel out there. I think it's absolute. I think it's poison. Some of the shit that he comes out with. But again, I mean, look, there's always going to be winners and losers. You know. D says, in my lifetime supporting them, I've never seen them at their all-time best. I've seen them at their all-time best, and I've seen them at their all-time worst. Seen them embarrassing teams and be embarrassed, win trophies and lose them. But I won't turn my back on the club ever. It's in my blood. We will rise again, but not under Erik's guidance. All right, strong words there from D. Laser says, we can't make excuses for him anymore. Yes, we had injuries, but he asked for this 11 and full squad, and he got it. Sad to say, but if he loses one of the games this week, then he won't be here next week. Well, one of the things that really concerned me yesterday, and I didn't actually see it live, I was listening back to it, obviously because we were doing the match reaction, is that he said that Bruno Fernandes's red card was a big turning point in the match. And I was just going, oh, Erik, what are you doing, man? I've backed you so much. Why are you saying this nonsense? Bruno Fernandes getting sent off changed nothing. Spurs controlled the game from minute 1 to minute 96, whatever was added on at the end. And it's small little things like that that really are going to, I suppose, put you, you know, a little bit lower down in estimation for me anyway. Bruno's red seemed like he even knew it was over. Laser says Villa might be a win, as we've a good history record of beating them, but beating them changes nothing. Even though Emery is a much better coach, could be them to beat us this season. Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think if there's any, I think we get something out of Porto game potentially. I don't think we get anything out of the Villa game, and I know they didn't beat Ipswich at the weekend, but I just can't see us getting nothing out of that Villa game. I really can't. Who do we get? I'm lost thinking, says the lost pod. Well, leave it with me. We've got a few reports about names that we'll get through in a few minutes. Chris says, I think they are looking for replacements. Look, the one thing I would say about this is that I don't believe for a minute that Ineos are not planning for the future at the moment. I'm get, be under no illusions. They are planning for the future at the moment. They are planning for all circumstances. They're planning for Ten Hag winning the next, couple of games, leaving him there maybe until after the international break, maybe up till Christmas. They're probably also planning, what do we do if he loses the next two games? Do we, and I've said it before, teams like to sack managers around international breaks. And the reason for that is because it allows the new manager coming in to get a couple of weeks on the training ground with his new players and try and embed some of his ideas and tactics into his new squad. And it makes sense that way. Ineos, we've seen already, and the good work that they've done behind the scenes, they are not going to let this rumble along without any planning in the background. They are planning. They're doing meetings. They had a meeting after, was it the Crystal Palace game? Was it in Monaco? Remember that? And it was kind of, they were going, yeah, well, we're not too fucking happy about this. They're going to be planning and be under no illusions. They've had meetings today, if not last night after that game, around the future of Erik Ten Hag and so on and so forth. But again, that doesn't mean that they're going to pull the trigger and sack him. Brian says, the worry I have, if they do decide to sack Ten Hag, who is available out there? Yeah, we'll get onto that in a moment. I don't think his system is working or will work. His lineup for FC20 wasn't right, says Chris. No way Maguire should have played. We needed to start with our best lineup. No way we should be chasing points. In fairness, says Finn, to Ten Hag, we got a lot of goals out of substitutes last season. Yeah, we did. We did. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll certainly agree with you on that one. Let's see. Chris says, I have been Erik Ten Hag in, but honestly, I waver because I can't see a style of play that is going to win. Just not just the Spurs game. Yeah, well, it's the thing about it is that there's been no real plan B with Erik Ten Hag, in my opinion. Like you see other teams, and I hate to say this, but you look at Chelsea, for example, even this season. I mean, there's been times where, like you look at, they played Brighton on the weekend, and I was watching the highlights of it, and, they know Brighton and the full press that Brighton do. So, they'll try and hit on the counter attack and, get, fast players out wide to hit on the break and so on and so forth. And then there's other games where, they slow the game down. They keep possession. They're patient. They bide their time. And other teams do that. Liverpool do it. I mean, Man City do it. Spurs probably don't. Postecoglou, in fairness to him, was just, blood and guts all the time. Unai Emery does it, for example. With Ten Hag, it just seems to be, this is how we play it, and this is how we're going to set up. And, if you're better than us, and if you can, what we're going to do, but you have to be better than us to beat us. There's no real, I don't see too many changes that, that come in as the opposition changes, and as the teams and games go on, which is, a bit of a concern, to be honest. Are you doing the Manchester United match on Sunday? I am, Connor. Yep. I see now what you've been saying, Chris. There doesn't seem to be a shape at all. Absolutely no tactics. We will be lucky to get a draw against Porto, and we will be trashed by Villa. D says Bruno could have stayed on the park and has 2 additional clones to give us 2 extra men, and we still have lost the game. Ben says Eriksen's comment about FC20 saying that they wanted it more is a big worry as well. Yeah, I mean, that's a big concern. And it's something that we forgot to mention last night, really, wasn't it? That, I mean, for a senior player to be saying that they wanted it more and we didn't really want it is really damning on the players that are there. And, it's a senior player and it's a guy who's been around for a long time, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's obviously calling it like it is, and it's a big concern. It really is. If you say Southgate, I'm reporting the channel. I'm just relaying the news. I'm not making it. But absolutely, he looked at them and then our dressing room and went, nah, they wanted it more. Couldn't agree more, Jack. He's got nothing to do when his only tactic doesn't work, says D. Right, let's move it on and get down through some more of the reports coming out today. Now, Fabrizio Romano has been speaking about it, and we know how reliable he can be. He says the board want to trust Ten Hag, but the games against Porto and Aston Villa will be two important games for the future of him. And not just about the results, but they want to see performances and how the players will react in terms of motivation. He also says Manchester United are currently not considering sacking Erik Ten Hag. There are no conversations about this at the moment. So that kind of contradicts what we've just said a few moments ago, about Ineos being, working in the background. And I certainly think that they are not considering sacking Ten Hag at the moment. However, I do think there are plans in place for every circumstance. That's more of what I was kind of saying. But I mean, Fabrizio Romano has hit the nail on the head here. I do think the two games against Porto and Aston Villa, in a way, are important, but in another way, probably aren't. And I'll explain that. I think in a way, why they are important is because if he loses both games, I think he's done, regardless. But in a way, why they're not important is because I think he's done anyway. I think there will be another game like Spurs. There will be another game like Liverpool. There will be another game, like Crystal Palace last season. And when they continue to raise their heads, it's going to be very, very difficult for Erik Ten Hag to survive. You look at where we are in the league table, we've won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, which Ten Hag reminds us about an awful lot, over the last few months. And I don't really think the majority of Manchester United the fan base really care. Not that they don't care about the trophies, because we want to win trophies and we want to win. I think the majority of the Manchester United fan base, and if I dig deep enough, I'm one of these people. It's all about the league. It's all about the league. You know what I mean? It really is. I love winning cups and, trophies, and you get into a final at Wembley and so on and so forth. But it's one day. It's one day, and it's brilliant to win them games and them tournaments. But the league is everything. The league is the bread and butter. You want to be challenging for league titles. I will go as far as saying that I still believe winning trophies in a season and finishing below someone like Arsenal is still a better season. However, you answer me this question. We've won 2 more trophies in the last 2 years than Arsenal. Who's enjoyed supporting their team more? Man United fans or Arsenal fans in the last 2 years? Now, there are arguments for both. You know what I mean? We've enjoyed winning cups and cup finals. Brilliant. Happy days. They enjoy nearly every week watching their team. Nearly every week. And that's a big concern. That's a big concern. And I think that's why the league is so important. That's why the league is so important, in my opinion. But let me know what you think. Let's see. I'd say there's conversations just under the table, says Ben. Pantera says, I'd rather Martin O'Neill or Benitez as manager. Surely, well, that's a bit stupid now. Look, I know you I know you're trying to be funny and all, but, I mean, a lot, sorry, and that's not aimed at you. I just heard some nonsense online throughout the day about different, we should do this and we should do that. And, he's the worst manager we've ever had. It is nonsense. You know what I mean? A lot of that stuff. But I know you're just trying to be funny, Pantera. Surely there'll be a kickback in this team after the horror show of the weekend. Yeah, well, you just don't know. You just don't know, to be honest with you. Chris says trophies are great, but United fans want to see United battle for titles and be dominant when we play game in, game out. If we lose and we get beat while showing We are competitive in games. Yeah, absolutely is what we want. Being competitive, game in, game out will bring trophies. Absolutely. D says, how many of us truly get buzz turning the game on every weekend? There's an air of dread about watching the games now, just waiting for the inevitable trouncing or points dropped. Well, if I didn't have this channel, would I watch every Manchester United game at the moment? I mean, it kills me to say it, but I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't. You know, I love watching Manchester United and I get excited for it every weekend. And partly because of the channel and chatting to ye, and partly, most importantly, because I want to see Man United play and I want to see him win. And it's like that, you know, it's hard to explain. Watching Manchester United at the moment is like, it's like having a hangover and saying you're never drinking again, when you're currently hungover. And we're in that kind of phase at the moment with United where I'm saying, I don't ever want to watch him again. But I know when the next game comes around, I'll be sitting right here, with the game on the TV, watching him again. And that's the addiction. We love Manchester United, even though they drive us up the wall, more than they don't. And that's the big concern at the moment. But yeah, they're a hard watch at the moment, and it's hard to not be worried tuning into a Manchester United game. And that's the biggest criticism of all. It's the biggest criticism of all, Anyway, let's see. Yes, I agree, Jack. Bet you think another watch along what we're going to get this week. Yeah, you know what I mean? Now, the thing about it is, from a content standpoint, there's always something to talk about. You know what I mean? But I would love nothing more than to be doing watch alongs on this channel week in, week out, going, fucking deadly, boy. This is deadly. Yeah, sure what? We're going to absolutely walk all over Bournemouth here. You know what I mean? I would love that. But, we go play Bournemouth and I'm going, oh, Jesus. Draw? What? You just don't know. I happily turned off the telly at halftime, says Ben. I will not watch if Southgate comes in. I say I won't, but I know I will. Oh, we enjoy turning into your Glazer-funded business trips too. Fuck off now. Now was not the time to be joking about Glazers, all right? Imagine having your channel when we were at our best. Well, you know what? We will be again. And if I'm breathing, I'll be sitting here, all right? And you will see me cry live on YouTube when we lift the Premier League title. When that will be, I don't know, but I'll be sitting here if I'm still alive. Please God. Will we be doing watch-alongs and talking out our best takeout food? Yeah, exactly. There you go. We'll be talking about food. Of course we would. Right, let's move it on a little bit. Simon Stone has been talking in the... I'm even forgetting who from the BBC has been saying, while the pressure on Erik ten Hag is clearly mounting, Manchester United's hierarchy will always consider such situations carefully rather than making a decision immediately after a bad result. And another report is saying it would cost Manchester United £17.5 million to sack Erik ten Hag now. And that's something that we did speak about last night, is can Man United afford to sack Erik ten Hag, given how tight it is with FFP and PSR and so on and so forth? All of these things come into consideration. Man United would have to pay off Erik ten Hag if they sack him. You know what I mean? Erik ten Hag won't. If Erik ten Hag resigned, then his contract is null and void. But if he gets sacked, Man United have to pay him, and that's the big concern. Now, let's move on and talk about potential replacements if Erik ten Hag is to move on and be sacked. Okay. Now, the first one, obviously, is the closest person to him at the moment, and it's Ruud van Nistelrooy. Okay. And Rob Dawson has been saying today that Manchester United believe they are well prepared to make a change of manager if results and performances do not improve. Promoting Ruud van Nistelrooy, at least in the short term, is considered a viable option, if a change becomes necessary. Now, I've given my opinion on Ruud van Nistelrooy already. I think it would be a very silly move, to be quite honest with you. I think it would be very short-term based. I think it would be, and it would be very reactionary, and that's not how Ineos so far have worked. As owners of Manchester United. Now, if we talk about Nice, they chopped and changed the manager there quite a lot. Okay, so Ruud van Nistelrooy, as much as I love Ruud van Nistelrooy as a Manchester United player and what he's done for the club and so on and so forth, what has he done as a manager? You know what I mean? Successful-ish at PSV, but Ten Hag done more in Holland than Ruud van Nistelrooy done, and he done a million times better in Europe than Van Nistelrooy done. And also, what we have to realize is that Ruud van Nistelrooy has a hand in our performances this season. He's the assistant manager, okay? Ruud van Nistelrooy was brought in, and what did we say when he was brought in? Everybody was saying, oh, boys, Rashford is going to score another 30 goals. We're going to be banging in goals. You won't stop us scoring. Ruud van Nistelrooy, bish, bash, bosh, the whole lot. And what the fuck is after happening to that, like? And we haven't scored goals. We simply haven't scored goals. We were missing the most amount of big chances in the Premier League. We've got one of the highest XGs in the whole league, which means we're expected to score goals. We're creating chances, and we're not finishing them. Do you want Ruud van Nistelrooy as your manager? Just saying. Just saying. I would rather see us go out and get a manager who is a manager who you want to have long-term at the club. That's what I would do personally when it comes to Van Nistelrooy. Next. All right. Ben Jacobs has been speaking, and he says Ineos are known admirers of Gareth Southgate and Graham Potter. Here we go. And both would be likely candidates should a change be made. Okay. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I have been Jack Points. This has been the United Community Channel. Goodbye forever. Now, am I joking? I mean, like, I would be very, very tempted to do that if one of them gets the job. More so Gareth Southgate. More so Gareth Southgate. Graham Potter, no thanks, but he's better than Gareth Southgate. I think both of these candidates, potential candidates, would be a disaster. Would be an absolute disaster. Now, there is a silver lining when it comes to the report from Ben Jacobs here, and it's Laurie Whitwell, the saviour. He says on Gareth Southgate, the Manchester United, on the podcast today, and I listened to the podcast in full. He says every time I've asked the question about Gareth Southgate, he's been steered away from it. And I listened to the podcast today, and he's basically saying that every time he's asked, anybody, that is in the know in relation to Manchester United, inside or outside the club, about Gareth Southgate and the potential links with the club, they've been shot down, And that is the best news we've got today, in fairness, because if Gareth Southgate came in as Manchester United manager, like Yves said, I would find it very, very, very difficult to watch Manchester United again. I really, really would. I really would. And I think Ineos know this. Now, and not to say that fans should have a say in who becomes the manager and who doesn't become the manager, because we shouldn't really. But surely to God, Ineos and the decision makers, Ashworth, Barada, Wilcox, know the feeling around Gareth Southgate within the fan base. Surely they can see and read and hear opposition clubs, fans going, oh yeah, I hope United gets Southgate. Oh geez, that'd be brilliant. Surely they can see the raft of unhappiness within the England fan base when he was manager of England. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't think Gareth Southgate will ever be Manchester United manager. I don't think Ineos will be that stupid, if I'm quite honest with you. And I do know there's links there. So we're talking about Gareth Southgate and we're talking about Graham Potter. Obviously, Dan Ashworth is the link between the three. Dan Ashworth and Southgate obviously have connections when Dan Ashworth was, football director at the FA. And then, of course, when Ashworth was working at Brighton, Graham Potter was the manager there. So there are connections there. I just hope that them connections are severed forever and they don't make their way up north towards Manchester. Now, another man that Ben Jacobs has been speaking about today, and something we didn't actually hear over the summer, is Eddie Howe. And supposedly Manchester United had discussed Eddie Howe over the summer when they were going through that kind of revision phase and doing the end of season review and so on and so forth, that Eddie Howe's name did spring up. Now, Eddie Howe to Manchester United. I mean, I like Eddie Howe. I think he's a very good coach, and I think he's very smart. He's very intelligent. He's very down to earth. He doesn't get too carried away. He doesn't get rattled that often. He's got a good relationship with the media. Has he got the shoulders on him to put Manchester United up and carry us forward? I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Now, he has worked with Dan Ashworth before also, okay, at Newcastle. He's done good things at Newcastle. I do think he would be coming in as a coach, 110%, nothing else, as a coach. And he would be the puppet on the string that, Ineos want to have, where, Ineos will make all the decisions in terms of recruitment. Obviously, he'd have a say. But, I mean, I would certainly take Eddie Howe over, some of the other reports that are coming out about Southgate and Potter and so on and so forth. Is Eddie Howe going to leave Newcastle to come to Manchester United? If that was the case, I don't know. I think the connection between him and Dan Ashworth is probably strong enough that he would consider it. However, if he's weighing up his options at the moment, what can he get out of the Newcastle job? They seem to be a little bit hamstrung with funds at the moment, and FFP and so on and so forth. He's been linked with the England job also. So I don't know. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it was a name that's been brought up. Let me see what you're saying here. Graham Potter couldn't get Chelsea working. What chance has he got here? Exactly my pointy. Southgate managed a great team and won what? Exactly, says Ben. Even if Southgate landed in with Bellingham, Kane and Foden, it would be a bitter pill. Laser says, I know Ineos have more sense, but if they get Southgate, then I don't think I'll have much more trust in them as our owners. And that's a good point as well. They're in a honeymoon period at the moment where, they've got one good transfer window behind their belt, under their belt. And it's there's a lot of trust there for them. Appointing Gareth Southgate, that trust is gone. You know what I mean? It really is gone. And then the pressure is on for them to deliver. Talk about no tactics. Southgate is worse than Erik ten Hag. Exactly, Chris. Exactly. D says get Inzaghi off of Inter. We'll get on to him in a moment because he is on the list. Any manager that's been successful in Italy has to be tactically minded. They will go after McKenna. I believe he only signed a 1-year extension. Nothing against Howe, but I'm not too sure about this. I would like Inzaghi, though. Have you heard of his sudden links? Let's talk about him. They're right here. So this is coming from the Daily Star, which is, look, obviously not the greatest of outlets. From Jeremy Cross, he said, Simone Inzaghi has emerged as a serious contender to become the next Manchester United manager if Erik ten Hag is sacked. Now, look, I mean, I won't lie, I don't know an awful lot about Inzaghi and, his playing style and, his tactical prowess and so on and so forth. I don't. I don't. I won't lie. Um, but I do agree with what's been said in the chat already. If you're looking for tactics, Italian managers tend to be very good. However, the one thing I would say is that Italian managers tend to be very defensive. And that's a concern going into a club like Manchester United, who expect on the front foot attacking play, getting you on the edge of your seat, getting you up off your seat. Does an Italian manager bring that? I don't know. I'm going to look into Inzaghi more and see what the what the whole talk is about him. But for the moment, all I can say is that he is one of the names that's been circulated around the media about a potential, as a potential replacement. Now, the other guy, okay, and the guy that's been on the most lips over the last maybe 6 months about replacing Erik ten Hag has been Thomas Tuchel. And again, Ben Jacobs has been talking. He says he is unlikely to be a front runner for Manchester United if Erik ten Hag is sacked, even though the German would welcome a fresh approach. Now, we did hear over the summer, of course, about Tuchel, given, time with Jim Radcliffe, and supposedly he turned down the role. That were some of the reports over the summer. Look, I like Tuchel as a coach. I think he's got I think he would go in there, he would ruffle some feathers. I think he would, take no bullshit. He is a good tactical manager. He knows the Premier League. He's won the European Cup. However, the downside to him is what I've said in the past. He falls out with his owners or his board quite regularly. Done it with Chelsea, done it with Bayern. I don't know if did he do it with Borussia Dortmund. I don't know. He likes to have more control than he has ever given when it comes to transfers and building a squad and so on and so forth. He will not get that at Manchester United with the new infrastructure that's there. He just won't. I think if he was willing to just coach the team and be part of the process in terms of, signing players, I would be all for Thomas Tuchel. He would be my number one if that was the case. And you could guarantee that he wouldn't fall out with the board and, he'd be happy with, the job that he's doing. Outside of that, I think it's too much of a risk. I just think it's too much of a risk, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, I think we could easily find ourselves in 2 years' time back to square one with, him throwing his ties out of the pram and us saying, right, we need a new manager now. And concern again. And that is the concern. And last but not least, I don't know if you'll be happy or sad to know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not expected to be offered a return to Manchester United if Erik ten Hag is sacked. It's not a big shock to me, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if it's a big shock to you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Erik ten Hag, is he going to get sacked? Is he going to keep his job? I don't know. It remains to be seen. Regardless of whether he is or not, it's a big week for him. It's a big week for him. Chris says there, Nagelsmann. I would like Nagelsmann. I think he's a good young up and coming coach. He's the German manager though, isn't he? I don't know. And he is German himself. Would he leave the German national team to manage Manchester United? That would be like saying, would Gareth Southgate leave the England job to go and manage Borussia Dortmund? I don't think he would, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I don't know. But look, regardless of that, it's a big week for Erik ten Hag. It's a big week for Manchester United. And it's a big week in terms of what potentially could happen or what potentially might not happen. Equally as important, in my opinion. Let's see. There's never a dull moment, is there? Stick with us, though, guys. We're going to be live again. Will I be live tomorrow night? I got training tomorrow night myself, so we might have to go Wednesday. I'll tell you what we'll do. If I can, we might do maybe a little late night live tomorrow night, maybe about 10 o'clock or so, if possible, if I have the energy to do it, depending on you know, what news is coming up tomorrow as well. I will do then the match preview on Wednesday night, so keep an eye out for that as well. We'll be live for that Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. And then, of course, Thursday night, we've got to watch along away to Porto, which is a huge game. I appreciate everybody watching, guys. As always, please smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're on the road to 12,000 subscribers. They're flying up, so they are, even if United are not. So, yeah, I mean, what would I rather? Would I rather more subscribers or United to win the Premier League? United to win the Premier League all day. I just get you to subscribe then after we won the Premier League. So happy days. Anyway, appreciate you watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your morning, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching. Chat to you tomorrow. Take it easy.